Patient. Oh, thanks for shushing when people talk. Appreciate you guys all quieting down so quickly. So we will go ahead and get started with our city council meeting. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be provided by Scout Troop number 1126. So if you will go ahead and start with that, we'd appreciate it.
Recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we always appreciate the active scouting community that we have that have come to participate in our city council meeting. We're glad to have you all here. Next item is item 1.2, council disclosure for conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest that the council would like to disclose at this time on items tonight? No? Okay. Next item is item 1.3, council comments and recognitions. Any comments or recognitions any of the members of the council would like to make at this time?
I guess we have to comment on our awesome grand opening today out at the RSL training facility. If you guys haven't been out there, it's now officially open. It is the only one of its kind on really almost this hemisphere. As a soccer person, I'll say it's just amazing the opportunities these kids are going to have out there, not just for soccer. They've got rugby practices out there, lacrosse, all sorts of sports. Excuse me, but the facility with the school, housing for the academy, it's the only thing of its kind, even for Major League Soccer. The commissioner came in today for the opening ceremony, which is a huge deal, and made a point that there's only 2 other teams in the league that have academies, but those teams don't even have this type of thing. They don't have the facility all together. So opportunities there are just awesome, and what we've seen it do for our community already, the response from local businesses, commercial interest in that area has really peaked. So we're all really excited about it. We were all able to be there today and participate in that ceremony. It was a lot of fun.
Councilman, if I could add to that, $78 million of investment into our community. That's the cost of the facility. Very significant investment that creates or makes Herriman really a destination, which is one of those philosophies the council has looked for, is that we bring people into our community that then spend money, and that revenue is used to improve our city. So it's very, very significant investment, the only one like it in North America. So it's something to be celebrated today.
I just actually want to add to that the only way that was possible to happen in our community is because of the great work of the staff that works here for Herriman City. This was a smaller scale project that was planned for someplace else in the state. That one fell through. There was designs to go to another community, and because of the foresight of some great staff members and a lot of hard work amongst our staff, and now in order to help pull the appropriate people and stakeholders together to actually put that deal together, tells you what a tremendous staff we have, and now what great benefits our community will be able to reap because of their work. So
I'll just quickly add to the staff thing. It was quite funny when they were doing their presentation because they called the staff, I think, pesty. Is that the word?
Pests.
They were pests. So kudos to the staff for being pests, because that's what got that facility to come here. It's amazing.
I think specifically they're talking about Gordon over there.
that was just in reference to the restraining order.
And to the restraining, yeah, so we appreciate it.
It was great.
I do also, I don't need to ramble on about it, but I do want to say thank you to Real Salt Lake, to now having a home for the Monarchs, for the Royals, for the Academy. It is just a fantastic facility. If you didn't get a chance to go out there today, please take an opportunity to go out. There's going to be games all summer long. It's going to be a fantastic part of our community. And now we have our own professional sports team here in, we have a professional sports team here in Herriman. And so it's a big deal for us. And I also want to thank Deloitte Hansen, who it's his vision And he's not here, but he was here today, and want to make sure that he is thanked by us publicly for investing in our city and giving us something unique that we can have for generations to come. So we just want to make sure we express that gratitude. Any other comments today? Okay. We will move on to item 2, which is our public comment section. We do invite any audience member to bring up any items to the mayor or council's attention that they see fit. Comments are limited to 2 minutes, and state law does prohibit us from acting on anything that wasn't publicly noticed. So while we're happy to listen to your comments, it may be a future meeting before we can actually address it with you, among the council. We do have a comment that was submitted to us, or somebody that would like to speak first, so we'll go ahead and invite that individual up first. Lynn Egbert, we would invite you to come up and speak to your item.
Thank you. To start off with, I'd like to, I don't know how many of you were here last July. I would like to congratulate the council on their restraint last year. Being a firefighter, on the 4th of July, there was a lot of calls, inundated. A lot of other city councils got stressed out, and they put out a lot of ordinances. Herriman was mellow, and they just let it be, and it worked out just fine on the 24th. And I want to congratulate you guys for doing that. My comments today are pertaining to the old City Hall. I think it makes sense to keep it. Because of my work schedule, if that comes up in the next couple of weeks, I won't be here. That's why I want to express them now. There was a plan in place originally to have that as a community center once we grew. Obviously, we have growing, and I don't see us shrinking anytime soon. And there is a rumor out there, I don't know if it's true, I don't care if it's true, but I heard that they might already be out of rooms here. Whereas that will give a place for the city to grow as governments seem to multiply. It is also, that area of the city has always been a central part of Herriman. The first church was there. Lions Club was a meeting place. It's on the site, exactly where the old City Hall is. At some point, the fire station is going to move. The city will retain that property, and Dollars to Donuts, the old church, will be up for sale. I think it would make a great center for activities there. And to liquidate the building, I don't think it would be conducive. Also, the city at some time will need more parking for their vehicles. And since that was a great parking place for your vehicles, I think you ought to retain it just for that simple reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we do appreciate you bringing your comments to us so that we can review them when we bring that item again before the body. At this time, if there's, that's the only comment form I have, and so if there's anybody else that would like to come and speak to the council, we'd invite you to do so at this time.
My name's Jack Covert, and I did turn in one of those forms. I don't know what happened to it.
I'm sure it just didn't get to me yet.
I'm kind of here representing my family. We've lived in Herriman for almost 10 years now, and what we'd like to see, well, there's other neighbors in the neighborhood that are interested in it too. We'd like to see an outdoor pool. I talked with the county about it, and they don't have it in their budget, but they said if Herriman's willing to build it, they'll run it for us. And there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood that would
That's
just...
so nice of them.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of kids that would really like it here. And I don't know if you have the land to do it. I was thinking over there on the other side of the Sorensen Center would be great because you already have parking there. The other thing we would like to see is some kind of way of getting Google Fiber up here. I don't know if that's possible, but it would sure be nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. And I would love to have an outdoor pool here too. If the county wants to come in and build it for us, we'd be happy to run it. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further comment, we'll go ahead and close our public comment section of the meeting and move on. All right. We'll move on to item 3, which is mayor and council board and committee reports. I just would like to express to the council that we are fast approaching the end of the legislative season. There is a lot of moving parts and a lot of fairly big ticket types of legislation. As with the help of Councilman Henderson, can't talk today, I apologize. We are actively working against those items and bills that might be targeted at removing the local control that cities have to govern what is built in their city. And so we've had some positive towards that, but there's still a lot of time left. Half of the legislation I'm sure will get passed in the next week. So it's a good process to go through, and it will be a busy week and a half or so.
Say for those that aren't aware, we're part of the League of Cities and Towns. Councilwoman Martin serves on the board, so we're actively involved with that organization to kind of fight for local control. And every year it's the same story. The next level of government wants to have the control. And so we fight a lot of bills every year. The legislative session is fairly short. We're talking a few weeks in January through February. So this next week or two, the end, coming through the finish line is going to be interesting to see which of those get through. There's a couple of really nasty ones. Is it House Bill 175 the state? There's some people in the state that want to put a governing body over local entities.
And that one was killed out of the House, but there's a good chance that will come back again.
They've called it the resurrection.
Yes, they fully expect that one to come back.
There's some bad stuff going around, so we're gonna fight hard this last couple of weeks.
And the latest update on that, they're trying to move the local governments as part of that oversight, but they feel like that will come back again next year or slip in the last minute.
Yeah. It's always that last minute change that gets you, Scouts. Yeah. If you're ever writing laws, just know. Because you're all going to write laws next year, right? Anyone else that would like to give any reports?
I'll just report on a board meeting with Wasatch Front. They're actively trying to mitigate the impacts of the closing of the transfer station that was announced by the county. If the transfer station, so the transfer station is where they go and dump a lot of the garbage there. It's compacted and then hauled off. Because it's closer to a lot of the collection areas, it saves a lot of money to dump it there because of the mileage. If that transfer station is closed, that will definitely impact all of the residents here because the cost to serve is going to increase, and so then our garbage collection is going to increase. So they're working very diligently to try and understand why that transfer station is closing, maybe change the closing, or try and figure out ways to take it over or find better options of places to dump. So just know that it's a potential financial impact for the residents because of that, but they are working very diligently to find solutions to that so it doesn't have to come down to our pocketbooks.
Just a quick comment. I have the pleasure of serving on the South Valley Sewer Board. That entity met last week as well. And again, we all have the opportunity to serve on various boards for other services that are provided to our community that most oftentimes we don't give a second thought to. Our waste removal, our sewers, we turn on the faucets or flush the toilets in our homes, and we just know that it goes away, and we don't really give a thought of what it really takes to make all of that happen. And so it's been really a great experience for me to be able to serve on that board, to gain a better understanding of that particular service and what it takes to provide that service. I will tell you that we have a fantastic group of people that run the South Valley Sewer, and are very, very fiscally conscious about the cost that it takes to provide that service and how they continue to improve our service. And I've been very impressed with, again, their fiscal responsibility and the measures that they're taking to put in place to help continue to reduce those costs. One of the costs, and back to kind of Sherry's point of, transfer stations, landfills, those types of things, is there's a tremendous amount of waste that actually still comes out of the sewer facilities that have to be taken and properly disposed of. And again, those are all added costs. Costs for the haul away, the disposal fees, all of those things. And so one project that the sewer board is working on, they are in the design phase of right now, is to add basically a drying facility there at the South Valley Sewer Treatment Plant that will take a lot of the waste that is being required to be hauled away at this time, and to put that through a drying process, which will, one, render it basically safe to be disposed of, actually used as fertilizer. And two, it takes away, again, a tremendous amount of hauling of very wet, heavy material that is required under certain regulations to be disposed of in a certain way. So again, they're looking at ways to improve our service, to improve what that fiscal cost is back to its communities that they serve. And I'm happy to report they're doing a fantastic job in looking out for those and planning well for the future.
Thank you. I also sit on the Joint Policy Advisory Committee, which has to do with transportation for the state and where funds are going to go for different projects. It sounds like we've had some positive moves towards getting some regional transportation options move towards this corner of the valley. The other mayors in the area, as well as some, there's quite a few of them that are all concerned with it, and they're all working together. And so this is a positive step, and hopefully in the next couple of years we'll be able to have certain, funding that is dedicated to our road projects and can really help our community grow. Okay, if there's no other reports, we'll go ahead and move on to item 4, 2017 the Animal Service Annual Report. Carrie Siebert.
Good evening. Before we go into statistics and the annual report, which you've all been provided a copy, we'd like to first present a video that highlights some of the events and stories that we had for last year. So more than welcome to start the video. right, so now we can go into the statistics for your annual report. As you saw in the video, a lot of our highlights last year, a lot of fundraising. We did a lot for our Injured Animal Fund, like the political pet campaign. We also were visited by PetSmart Charities. And then, oh, thank you. And then we also, let me get to the right page here.
Gordon, I don't think that's advancing.
Mm-mm.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go. Jump back one, maybe.
Alan was kind enough
we
to
go.
hit the space bar.
And pictured there, it kind of cut out in the video, you see our canine mare, Candy, who's also a therapy dog, and Churchill, her deputy mayor. And then we also did some bite prevention training to postal workers across the county, hoping to help keep workers in our community safer. So we did quite a bit last year, and we'll delve into more of what we did in Herriman. So I'll jump a couple pages, maybe. So our county statistics, we ended the year at over 94% for cats and dogs. Others, for all animals, we did 93%. Others would include livestock, small mammals, reptiles, birds, anything outside of that cat and dog category. And all of these tables with the statistics are included in your share drive, which several of you have received an invite on through SmartVault. So all of these are individually available, so you can kind of zoom in and look at it a little bit closer. For Herriman City, cats and dogs was over 94% as well. For including others, also over 93%. For the jurisdiction summary, we did over 1,200 licenses. We did just recently, on the 10th, have our 2018 Southwest Regional Licensing Clinic. It was a huge success. We did well over 100 licenses, vaccinations, and microchips. Huge turnout from the community. We had residents from the whole Southwest region joining us, so we do want to thank the community for coming out and joining us for that. For calls, you can see there's a summary of the priority calls and our response times. Again, you can always go into these reports to view them a little bit more closely. For the AN calls, I know this table looks a little scrunched, but at the end of the year, we did over 1,200 calls within Herriman City. For stories and events, last year we also had a Herriman licensing clinic. It was also a huge success. We had officers Melanie Bennett and Michelle Jones out there. And then Snuggle with Pets, we had that started last year. It has been a huge success. We've had great feedback from the community. They've come out, we've adopted out animals. We do also offer the licensing and microchips, and that is the second Friday of each month. So again, join us out there for those, and it's here at City Hall, but those have been a huge success as well. We did partner with Tinker's Cat Cafe. They are in Salt Lake City. It's the first cat cafe here in Utah. So cats that come into our shelter from all over the valley, but as well as Herriman, this offers another avenue for them to get adopted. Rather than sitting in the shelter, you can go enjoy a cup of coffee and sit with some cats and hopefully take one home. Humane education, that has been huge, and the schools here in Herriman are loving it. We're getting a ton of schools contacting us to do presentations to the children. So here are a few pictures of ones that we attended. We also participated in the city parade, which we will also do this year. Turned in the application already. And as you saw in the video, our Petapalooza event, it was our largest one yet. This year is going to be even bigger. As I mentioned in a previous council meeting, we are looking for more vendors, so if there are businesses out in the community that would like to join us, please contact us. But we are looking to have more animals, more food trucks, more features, everything bigger and better. And to close, we do have some programs and resources. This only highlights a few. If they want to go to our website or Facebook, there's a whole variety of resources available to the public. Just to highlight some of our programs, we do have a book buddy program within our volunteer department. This is mainly for children. Since they're a little too young to handle the animals, they can still come in and read to our cats. It not only promotes reading amongst the children, but it does provide enrichment to cats in our shelter by giving that human interaction. If you're not sure about adopting a pet, we do have a foster program, and this is for any animals we get in, not just cats and dogs, it's to any type. So if you like reptiles or birds, please call us. This provides a temporary home for animals in the shelter while we look for a permanent home. It gives us unique insight in on the animal as well as gets them out of the shelter. We also offer the TNR program, and a lot of these flyers are available downstairs as well. Fees, not only do we offer vaccines, we do offer some vet services to the public. So if they go to our website, you can look up and see what we do offer and then contact us if you need any more information. Some promotions that we run year-round is our Senior for Senior program. So if you are a senior citizen and would like to adopt, we do offer our senior animals for free to seniors. So hopefully to get them out of the shelter, since sometimes they do tend to get a little overlooked. And then our Pet Crew membership, this supports not only our Injured Animal Fund, as well as other funds within the shelter. Pet Crew is an advocacy for some of those misunderstood animal populations or ones that kind of get a bad rap. We will hope to educate the community and help advocate and educate on those animals. And then there is a last page that is provided to you guys for liaison contact information, so that is available to you if you have any questions, and you can contact us at any time. Any questions?
Your creativity is fun. I just want to point that out. The programs that you've come up with, it's fun to see. Clearly, you love what you do as a group, and you're doing really fun, creative things to bring people in and recognize the mission. So I smiled a lot as I thought of the creativity that you're putting into
Thank you. And
this.
we're always open to new ideas, too. If there's anybody that would like to present an idea to us, we're always open to that as well. Thank you.
And my daughters love the Snuggle with a Pet option here. So it's fantastic. Please continue to allow me to bring my children in. And also, as mayor, I would love to invite the new mayor to come out and sit down and have a meeting and see what we can do to further help their, the issues that are important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We do have a consent agenda. And it looks like I think we're going to be making a quick change to it.
Yes, I just would like to pull out item 5.1 just for basically my own education to review a little more in depth the monthly financial statements with our finance director separately. So I would just make a motion that we remove item 5.1 for further discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is that a sufficient motion? We're going to leave them on the consent agenda.
So what I can do is I can just say, I'll make a motion to remove item 5.1 for further discussion and approve the consent agenda as otherwise written.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That motion passes. Moving on, we will go ahead and ask our financial director to come speak to item 5.1. Approval of the monthly finance statements. This is really deep stuff, guys.
Really interesting. Just to, as a way of introduction to this, as we've been talking this evening, we have a number of funds that we keep within the city. We have our general fund, which is our operating fund of the city. We have some special revenue funds. We've got our CDA fund and our SAA fund for the old Herriman Town Center. We've got a number of capital projects funds. We've got our road impacts, our park impact. storm drain impacts, street lights, street signs. We've got a special revenue, or we've got a special district in the Herriman City Special Safety Enforcement Area. And so all of those are here. And I give you in the financial report a summary of revenues and expenses. This is a format that's been requested previously. If we want to put more detail in it, we can put it all you want, up to giving you the entire general ledger. So,
Ooh, that's exciting.
Oh yeah, it's exciting. The general fund is the first 2 pages of this report. And essentially the first half page there shows you what our revenue and general fund so far this year has been. We've, through January 31st, have collected $10,996,000. Our total budget for the year of revenue is $18,799,000. We are currently at 58.4%. We're 58.2% of the year, so we're essentially 1/10 of 1% ahead of our projection in revenue. So then we look at each of the operating departments, and we show the revenue and the expense and the budget for each one of the departments. Now, in our general fund, we have maybe 25 or 30 line items for each one of these items, which if you're interested, that's available to you. So if you go through all of that, we have spent so far this year $11,042,000, which reduces our fund balance by $45,000. Each month, we are transferring all of the excess money to our capital projects, which is the way it was budgeted. Apparently there were some expenses come in after I transferred last month, so we're a little bit off, but that happens every month because there's a float and when expenses and so forth come in. We budgeted to transfer $3.5 million out of the general fund. We've currently transferred $3,250,000. That's going capital projects and debt service to make sure that we pay our bills. So, you know, most cities don't use a debt service fund, but we do. We set the money aside so that it's available when our payments come due. So that's what those transfers are. This is what we were talking about in the last meeting, is this is where that money comes for those general fund projects that we've been talking about. So during the course of this year, we've put $2,250,000 so far towards capital projects, and so I think by the end of the year that will be a little bit even more than what we had projected to begin with. Then as we move to the next page, I've just given you a summary of the revenues and expenses for each of our other funds, showing what they are against the budget. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all of these funds is that they're unlike the general fund. We can carry larger amounts over in these, and so sometimes you'll see us collect a lot more in one year than we spend, and then the next year we have a big project and it goes the other way. If it would be helpful, we could put fund balances here to show, because that is something that we go back and forth with these. You know, this year we've not spent a whole lot on park impact fees, for instance, but we're collecting a lot, and so you're seeing the fund balance go way up on that one, where we're actually spending in some of the others. But so we've just gone through each one and shown what has been collected this year, what's been expended this year, and what we actually budgeted to do in each of those areas. So all of those funds do have positive fund balances. We don't spend into the negative. And then finally, we have our water funds. And water funds are treated differently than all of our other funds. It's accounted for completely different. Our water fund is what's called an enterprise fund, which means that you're trying to make enough money in this project to pay for all the costs. All of our other funds don't necessarily have that philosophy. We pay for things with sales tax or franchise tax or whatever else because we never collect enough to pay for parks or streets, so, you know, it comes from other sources. But the water is expected to pay for itself. We go through a study every couple of years to set our rates to try and recover not only the costs, but what we've got to do in additional infrastructure items. So as you'll see in the top of this, we have some of the major operating incomes. As you'll see right now, we're at 63% of our revenue for the year. We're only 58% of the year, so we're slightly ahead on revenues. We're also slightly ahead on expenditures. So far this year, and this is not uncommon, we're actually showing a little bit of a loss for the year of $359,000. When the weather warms up and we start using more water, that turns around fairly quickly every year. Our water billings in June typically are about 7 or 8 times what they are in December, so we see that change as we go forward. We also have impact fees in the water fund for water rights and for water infrastructure, and so those are those two that are showing the revenues so far to date and what we've budgeted. Are there any questions specifically that I can answer for you?
Maybe a request, Alan.
Okay.
If you could put the fund balance on here, I think that would be nice, just simply because when you look at it, it makes it look like, oh, we're spending in the negative. I can see it says change in fund balance, but it would be nice to have that total there so that so it never looks like, you know, big huge negative, because like storm drain impact fees, we've spent twice as much as the revenue was collected. So
and that's one of them that for a couple of years now we've been accumulating, and now we've got a big project going, and so it's going the other way, but it would not be a problem to add the fund balance to it.
That would be nice.
No, and thank you for the explanation, Alan. You actually, the reason I didn't ask for this to be pulled out to be discussed separately because I had concerns about it. It was because I wanted the explanation for my own education.
No problem.
And obviously, I think that's always beneficial for the public that's here as well to be able to understand our budget. You do a fantastic job as our finance director and keeping Gordon straight and how he spends the money.
Gordon and I work well together.
Absolutely.
He says he wants money, I say no.
But to Sherry's point, you know, some of these things, obviously, I think for me too, that to see the fund balance there and recognizing that in these funds we're not going to spend more money than we have there, but to know exactly what is there would also be helpful for me in my own understanding. And I did have a question, and you explained it already on the water fund. Obviously, we're showing a loss there, but how that ebbs and flows with the water usage in the city, and why we see it at times and see it turn around at other times of the year.
It has a big fluctuation when we move into the spring, even more so than the fall. People seem to probably get tired of their lawn and garden by the fall, I guess.
Absolutely.
One thing to mention though on HCC. It is running in the negative right now, and as we explained, that was going to happen. We're still waiting for Slovisa to give us our fund balance. They said that would be done in March. We're March, so.
So we're getting a check tomorrow?
Well,
Just kidding.
I'm ready for it anytime they send it.
Well, thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate you taking the time to explain this in detail to us.
I just want to make a couple clarifying comments, and I apologize. We don't have this up on the screen for the public. This was part of the consent agenda, and we moved it over, so we don't have. We're all looking at the packet that's available online. But as this is broken down just for public consumption, I know I say this all the time, but I think we as a council want to make sure that the public understands our budget. I get asked all the time why you had made the comment that the impact fees work differently than the general fund, that the impact fees can have a higher limit than the general fund. So I just want to mention to the public what that means, because I get asked all the time why the city doesn't just save up enough money to build city hall or roads. Why do we have to bond for things? And the answer is?
We're limited on the amount we can retain in our general fund. We have to have at least 5% of our revenue in our general fund balance, and we can't have more than 25%. We currently, well, at our last financial statement, we were about 24%. So we're right at the maximum we can have, but it's still not enough to do a very big project.
So we save everything that we can. The state won't let us save more than that.
The state won't let us save more than what we are. We're right at the top limit. The amount we can keep is growing a little bit each year because our budget's growing every year, so that percentage continues to move up. But we currently have about $4.9 million in our fund balance for the general fund, which is enough to run our city for about 3 to 4 months, you know. And that's kind of the focus behind that. Is most cities' primary revenue is their property taxes, which are paid in November. So you have 25% fund balance. It gets you from the start of the year till when you get your money. Herriman City gets very little in property tax. We get most of ours from sales tax, which is pretty consistent. So we don't have as big a need as a lot of cities have to have that. But it's also something that the council has worked on for years to get it as high as we could and maintain it as close to maximum as we can.
And the only other comment I want to make is the impact fees that we mentioned. There's a park impact fee, storm drain, roads, street. You mentioned a lot of them, street lights, etc. Those funds are collected when there's new construction for the impact on those specific items, and the money can only be used for those things. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to touch on a couple things. Roads especially, those impact fees can't be used to rebuild an existing road.
No, they have to be used for a new road. Existing roads are considered part of your existing infrastructure. You can't repair, replace. It has to be used for new roads.
I won't badger you anymore. I know.
One more thing.
I make him explain this stuff like every time.
One more. I just point out along those same lines. Our water fund is our strongest financial account right at the point now. The state will not allow us to transfer money out of the water account to help other areas. We can't use water impact fees for anything but water. We can't use water revenues for anything but water. So, you know, we're really restricted to our general fund being the area that we have discretion over anything other than what's specifically defined.
I guess maybe I'll just segue into a couple of the public comments that were made tonight. So when it comes to things that we do have discretion over, whether it's a new recreational facility or an old facility that costs a lot of money to operate and maintain, there's a limited amount of money to go towards different projects and things. So
the projects we put in place that have high operating costs limit the future discretion that you have in the funds.
Yep. Thank you, Alan. Yep. Appreciate it. I just will say, it goes back to the point I made earlier about the fantastic staff we have here in Herriman that do all the right things to help keep us a healthy city. And as we head into our budgeting season to refine and establish our budget for the next fiscal year, you're starting to get a very, very small glimpse of everything that goes into that budgeting process in order to help this council understand exactly where we are and make appropriate decisions of how to best and most effectively and efficiently spend the money that we all pay as residents of Herriman to provide the services that we need and to have, our streets plowed and everything that goes into running a city. And there is very little discretionary money out there for us to accomplish all those. And so I think, obviously, my reasoning for asking Alan to explain this is, one, again, for my own education, to make sure I have the best education and knowledge possible as we go into making those difficult decisions when it comes to allocating the money that we need to keep those services that we have going, and to be able to fund those other projects that we know need to be accomplished in order to keep moving our city forward. So that doesn't happen just by the stroke of a pen and a few numbers. It's because we have fantastic staff that do their jobs and do it very well.
So is that the beginning of a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve item 5.1, which is the approval of the monthly financial statements.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That motion passes. All right, so that was our super fun meeting tonight. So we have our next planning commission tomorrow night. And then the next city council meeting will be on March 14th. And the work meeting will begin at 5, and the city council meeting, the general meeting will begin at 7 p.m. So with that, I would be happy to entertain a motion to move into closed session. Jackie? Motion to move into closed session. Okay.
I'll make a motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to convene in a closed session for the purpose to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property as provided by Utah Code annotated 52-4-205.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, Scouts, for your attendance tonight.
Was
That's
planning
super
commission
exciting
canceled?
stuff.
Made it all the
Was
way
planning
through.
commission canceled for tomorrow night?
Just the work meeting is all that's being held,
They have a work meeting,
No
but they won't
public
take
meeting.
but no planning commission.
Well, it's all public.